Hi, it's Richard Cole. I've done two other vodcasts before, and I've been corrected. They're not podcasts, they're video podcasts, which are known as vodcasts. So I learned something each week on this. I'm bringing you my view of the world from a mature, conservative point of view. If you like what I'm doing, hit the subscribe button below. What I'd like to do is first do a recap of last week. Not a recap, but a few things I forgot last week. If you watched it, you know last week was on transgenders and their effect on our society. I have very specific, strong opinions on that. But just to add to it, Planet Fitness, there's a news on Planet Fitness. Up in Alaska, the woman who was a member of Planet Fitness, the gym, walked into the ladies' locker room, saw a man shaving this pretty thick beard off his face at the sink. She said, "Excuse me, this is the ladies' room." He said, "I identify as a woman." She said, "You're in here shaving?" He said, "I identify as a woman." So she took a picture of him with her phone, went out to the front desk, complained, and they said, we honor whatever sex people feel they are, whatever they identify as. We will accept that. She complained more and they kicked her out of the club. She's out. She put a picture on the internet somewhere and it went viral. Following that, down in Georgia, Planet Fitness, another woman goes into the locker room, sees a naked man walking around, identifying as a woman, his junk hanging out, trying to get a woman to come into the shower with him with lotion because he likes lotion rubbed all over his body. She thought this was disgusting, and it is, and she went to the front desk. Same thing, complained, they kicked her out. So this is the new Bud Light of the gymnasium world. If you're a member of Planet Fitness, please change, get out of there. Show them what they're doing is wrong. Another point on transgenders, Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner, my new hero. A few years ago, Caitlyn Jenner was Bruce Jenner. I remember him on the Wheaties boxes when I was having cereal in the morning. He won all those gold medals in the Olympic. Great athlete, male athlete. He is now a woman, Caitlyn Jenner. A couple of things I like about him. One is she's a conservative. She's been on Fox and other networks, makes it clear where she stands. Politically, she's a conservative. She was interviewed recently about what she thinks about biological men playing in women's sports. She said, absolutely not. Men are stronger, bigger overall, and generally, and women cannot compete. It's unfair to women's sports. So I agree with that totally. I think men play with men in their sports, women play with women in their sports. If a biological man feels he's a woman but wants to play sports, play with the men. The other thing I notice, it's always men and women's sports. What about trans men, which are women identifying as men? I assume they're out there. I don't hear anything about them. But they never are trying to get into men's sports either because they're girls. They can't compete. Simple as that. Last comment on a man who wants to play in women's sports, it takes balls. Now into the Israeli-Hamas war and what I see as diminishing support for Israel. Let's talk about what occurred that morning on October 7th. Around 6:30 in the morning, peaceful residents, Israeli residents, were awakened by rockets and bombs hitting the nearby military base, Israeli military base. So they start walking outside to see what's going on. immediately shot by these hundreds of men walking down the streets, armed men, shooting everybody. They started running. The Israelis started running. They were shot in the back. They were machine gunned. They went into the houses. In one case, raped a woman in front of her 2 kids and then shot her in the head. This is the disgusting people that came in and did this. One case I even hate to talk about is a woman's breast was cut off and they played ball with it. It gets worse. It gets worse. I've read and seen it. It gets me sick. These are these animals that came in, killed over 2,000 innocent Israeli citizens, took 240 hostage. I'm not sure how many hostages are left. Some could have died, some have been killed. A few have been returned, but they still have well over 100 hostages there. Hamas took credit for this and said they'll do it again. What did Israel do? They did the only thing they can do. They punched back. Israel has one of the strongest and most intelligent armies in the world. Their generals are excellent. I remember the 1967 war when I think it was 5 Arab countries that surrounded them attacked them one day. 5 countries attacked them. Israel, you know how big Israel is? I live in New Jersey. Israel is the size of New Jersey, one of our smallest states in the country. That's Israel. Israel fought and won that war, eventually signing peace with Jordan and Egypt. But everyone knows and respects the Israeli army. Hamas must have known what was going to happen. Israel did something that no one ever does in war. I've never heard of it. And I'm a student of history. I've read all about all of the wars. They told the citizens of northern Gaza to clear out, because we're coming in. They gave them a short period of time. Most of them got out. Israel goes in. They find in the hospitals, tunnels under hospitals where they're based. They go into the hospitals, they find what looks like doctors walking around carrying guns. Turns out they were terrorists. They couldn't tell the doctors from the terrorists. The terrorists hiding behind their family, behind their women and children. That's what they were doing. The media coverage on this is very disappointing. All they're talking about is how many innocent Palestinian civilians have been killed. You know, I followed, as I said, history. I read a lot about World War II in Japan and Germany and everything. They never really talked about the number of innocent civilians being killed. We wiped out Hamburg. We wiped out Berlin, just brought them to a rubble when we bombed those cities. All we talked about is we're winning this war. We didn't talk about the civilians. In the Vietnam War, I remember body count, but the body count was the number of enemy militants that were killed. They want to know how many we're killing, and that's how they judged our progress. Now that the Jews have innocent civilians on the other side, that's all we hear about. Oh my goodness, so many innocent civilians killed. It's collateral damage. Israel didn't start the war. The only way they can get in there and eliminate Hamas is what they're doing, going into Gaza. They're going to have to go all over Gaza to find them. The media and other countries, including our own president, have called for a ceasefire. Israel's offered a ceasefire if they return hostages. Gaza turned them down. That really doesn't make the news. They're just saying Israel's continuing. AOC called it genocide. Up in Michigan, they are demonstrating anti-Semitic demonstrations from Muslim people up there. There's a lot of Muslims in Michigan. So it's understandable that they are out with anti-Semitic protests. But it's turned into death to America. Death to America. They're living in America. If they were living in a Muslim country, they couldn't say death to Iran or death to Iraq. They'd be killed. They'd be killed. They don't put up with that. But they're taking advantage of the freedom of speech that the greatest country in the world has. Just so you know who Hamas is. Hamas is a terrorist organization elected by the people of Palestine to be their leader. They knew they were terrorists. In Palestine, they teach their children in school to hate Jews. As they get older, they teach them they can kill Jews. That's not done on the Israeli side. They don't teach their children to hate Palestinians or Muslims or anything. But this is how they're raised in Palestine. I hear them talk about 3 different levels. Hamas, terrorists, the Palestinian civilians. They're all the same. They're all Palestinians, every one of them. So don't separate them. And they danced in the streets when that horrendous attack occurred. I'm disappointed in Republicans in Congress. Some of them not supporting Israel. They should. I think if we could put a bipartisan bill together with Democrats and Republicans, we could pass a bill supporting Israel more than what we're already doing. And by the way, I feel the same way about Ukraine. What a great time to fight Russia and beat them without sending our men into battle. The Ukrainians are happy to do the fighting. We just have to send military equipment. Let's do it right away. And the European countries, the same way. United Nations, by the way, has gotten into saying there's blame on both sides. That's the most useless organization that's ever been formed. They've never accomplished anything. I would say close them down, ship them out, make their building into condos, get rid of them. In closing, all I'll say about this is President Nixon, I saw an interview with him. He said, every president will always support Israel. Every president did support Israel until Obama came along and wavered. Trump came in and supported him very strongly. Then Biden came in and he's wavering all over the place. So the weakness in support for Israel is on the Democrat side. Thank you very much.